So, on my channel, I have interviewed a lot of different people and shared their story. Um, I have actually been interviewed myself on other channels, shared my story, but something I have not really done was in one video go over my story on my channel, right? So, I figured I'd do that today. Look, I know nobody wants to hear me talk for 45 minutes. I'm going to keep this somewhat brief, but I want to share out the entire story so people kind of know how I came to find carnivore and, how carnivore has worked for me and so forth. Um, so the first thing before I really get into it, I just want to mention it's Wednesday morning, Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. I will be live with my friend Johnny from the Carnivore Champion channel, and we'll be talking about carnivore and so forth. So check it out. We have a live stream every Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. So check it out. Okay, so let's go into my story. And first, I really need to take you back to 2017. And actually, even before that, let me say, growing up, I was a tall, fairly skinny person. Played basketball in high school. And, a lot of time I just looked like a toothpick out there on the court. Um, got into my 20s and wasn't as active. Got married when I was 23, still fairly skinny, maybe put on a few pounds, that type of thing. But then in my 20s, so I went in further into my 20s, I started to gain weight. By the time I was 28, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure and was put on medication for my blood pressure at 28 years old. 29, my wife had twins. We have boy girl twins. And I gained a lot of weight during the pregnancy, just like my wife did, except, the wife loses most of that after pregnancy. I didn't because I gained my weight just eating a lot. I didn't have anything inside of me. And, I just continued to get heavier. So let's go to 2017 now. At 2017, let's see, this was 8 years ago. So I was 43 years old. And I was at the point that I was feeling kind of rock bottom. I felt like I had to do something to improve my health. Um, I I just didn't want to do anything. I didn't have energy. I was in pain a lot. You can see from pictures that I wasn't in very good health at all. I had been on blood pressure medication at this point for quite a long time. Um, and yeah, just, I had a lot of issues. So I needed to find something. And I found a diet and exercise program that, was pretty intense. It was a bit carb restriction, but it also restricted fat. So I wasn't consuming a lot of food and working out a lot. And with that, I lost a lot of weight. That is true. There's so many different ways you can lose weight. That was not necessarily the healthiest way, but that's what I did. And I lost a lot of weight. Lost like 100 pounds, a little over 100 pounds. And then over the next year, I started to gain weight back. So in 2018, I started to gain weight back. I gained a little bit of weight back at this point, and I now got a new thing called AFib, atrial fibrillation for the first time. And that is where your heart, the signals going to your heart get mixed up and your heart's not beating regularly anymore. It goes into an irregular heartbeat. It'll start beating really fast and then kind of slow down and so forth. And it doesn't stay in a regular rhythm. So I got diagnosed with that late 2018. And my cardiologist said, it's not a whole lot you can do about it. It's a hereditary thing. It's something probably from years and years of drinking alcohol. You need to stay away from caffeine, that kind of stuff. But outside of that, he said there's nothing really you can do about it. And it's just going to get worse. And, one thing we can look at is an ablation where they freeze parts in your heart the signals are getting mixed up. And yes, that sounds pretty scary to me that they would be doing something like that to your heart. And they said that's one thing you can do. A lot of times that fixes it for a certain period of time, but that's where they were at. Now, I will say for me, it was not constant in AFib. It was intermittent. So I'd be in AFib and then I'd go out of it and then I'd go back into it, that type of thing. So over the next several years, I would continue to have problems with that. Fast forward now to 2022, spring of 2022. I'm back at the same point I was basically spring of 2017, where I'm heavier than I've ever been. I have no energy, no desire to do anything. I got mild depression going on, um, back pain like crazy. Like I could not sleep between back pain and hip pain. I couldn't sleep in bed very long, maybe a couple hours at the most, and I'd have to get up and finish on a recliner. So it was really bad, snoring really bad, that kind of stuff. Um, AFib had gotten to the point that I was having 2 to 3 episodes a week easily, maybe sometimes more than that. So I knew I needed to do something, and I knew some people that were losing weight with keto. Seemed like a good thing. I looked into it a little bit, saw some of Dr. Barry's videos, and I said, I'm going to try keto. So I did keto for 2 to 3 months. I did lose a little bit of weight, but it didn't really help with any of my health issues. Something else I didn't mention that was big with me is I had arthritis on my big toes and my feet would swell up. The top of my foot would swell up really bad and so forth. And it wasn't gout. It wasn't gout because I was tested for that. But I'd have that kind of thing happen. Different joints, my wrists, my elbows, my knees, my ankles, they would have like these flare ups every once in a while. I'd just get um, really bad pain, swelling, that kind of stuff. Okay. I was still having that as well with keto. So now we're getting to July 1st of 2022. And after doing further and further research, watching Dr. Barry videos, watching Dr. Sean Baker, just watching different people too, like on YouTube that were improving things with the carnivore diet and doing research and feeling like, I think that there's enough evidence here that maybe saturated fat isn't really bad for you. And I'm going to go with doing the carnivore diet. So I started it July 1st. And within that first month, most of my pain type of things were gone. I was sleeping in bed all night with no issues. Within the first month or two, my wife noticed I wasn't snoring anymore. The issues with the flare ups within the first few months, at least, I noticed that they weren't happening anymore. So I wasn't getting any more flare ups. My big toes, my top of my foot, my ankles, my knees, wrists, any of that stuff, elbows, that seemed to go away. The other thing I noticed within a fairly quickly, a few weeks probably, that the AFib episodes stopped happening. And I wasn't having an episode anymore. Remember, I was having 2 to 3 a week easily, if not more than that. Some weeks, but it was at least 2 to 3 a week that I was having. And they just went away. I wasn't having them anymore. And I lost weight. Within the first 3 months, I had lost 60 pounds. In the first year, I lost 80 to 85 pounds. And there were just tremendous things that were happening. Like my energy levels were going up. Depression was gone. It was mild depression, I will say, compared to like what some people have to deal with, but it was gone. And again, with the energy levels, I felt like doing things. I was no longer just wanting to sit on the couch. I felt like doing yard work outside. I'd want to go places with my wife and do stuff, just total changes there. And again, like I said, like the back pain being gone, the hip pain, all that stuff was gone. The AFib episode's gone. It was just amazing. And now I'm going to fast forward to where I am now. It's 2025. It's August 2025. It's been over 3 years, about 3 years and a month and a half right now that I've been on the carnivore diet. And I'm over 3 years without a single episode of AFib. Again, I was not constantly in it. I would go into it and then I'd go out of it. So I might be in it for a couple hours or 5, 6 hours, and then I'd go out of it. But I have not had any episodes. My cardiologist has checked for with heart monitors as much as 30 days at a time, and no issues at all with with that happening. Um, so that has been good. Taking off the medication, taking off the blood thinner that I was taking for that. I've lowered my blood pressure medication down to a smaller dose now. My blood pressure isn't better than where it was. It's still not what I think it should be, to not have medication and so forth, which is interesting because I'm 3 years and I've heard before that that's one of the last things that happen. And I do feel like I still have more body fat to lose as well. So maybe I'm still not really fully healthy yet. It's been 3 years, but what did I do to my body for 48 years, right? So at 51 years old, I'm a lot healthier than I felt at 48, but I still got work to do. In terms of energy and being able to do things and so forth, I feel like I did when I was 30. But I still have a little bit of a belly on me. I still have some weight I guess I should lose. I don't want to look at it as in terms of weight, that I need to lose. It's more body fat that I need to lose. But I think I do still have some of that kind of stuff. So there's little things like that. But the the improvements I've had have been tremendous. Um, I have no issues at all sleeping in bed at night anymore for basically 3 years. It's been great. And the way it used to be before that, for at least a year before that, I was every night at most, it was like a couple hours, and I'd go out downstairs, go to the recliner, and sleep on a recliner because I couldn't lay in bed anymore. I'd toss and turn when I was in bed and could only sleep on one side at a time for a little while because my hips would start hurting. Could only sleep on my back for a while because my back would start hurting so bad. And now I don't have any of that. The joint issues, that's all been gone for pretty much 3 years now, right around 3 years. There's only one time that I've had issues with anything, and that was when I got sick with a sinus infection, and doctor gave me an antibiotic that I took, and only ended up taking it for like 3.5 days because I had some adverse reactions to that. And one of the things was I started to get pain in my joints again, and I found that probably had something to do with oxalates that were dumping on my body because the antibiotic got rid of the gut microbiome that would feed on oxalates. So there was no other way to get rid of oxalates that might have been in my body, and so there was some oxalate dumping. Um, and generally, when you're eating a carnivore diet, you're not really eating things with oxalates. But like for instance, the one day I had some French onion soup that have onions that are high in oxalates, and sometimes I would eat something that I really shouldn't, and I would do that, and then I'd have an issue with the oxalate dumping. So, I had that happen. I'm feeling pretty good now. I've done some things to help restore my gut there. Some fermented foods and so forth, like, some cottage cheese and that kind of stuff that has really helped, I think, there. And I'm in a good place now. But that was the one time that I really had some issues with some joints and stuff that I wanted to bring up. But other than that, I've that the last 3 years have been amazing. The changes that have happened, and I just recently had blood work at 3 years. You can actually check. It's actually over here. You can check this video right here that talks about my 3 year blood work. It's just some basic stuff that was done with a free health screening that I had done. But I think it's interesting because it shows some of the things that some people worry about and are concerned about with carnivore diet. And mine's 3 years here. That's what mine are. Go ahead and check that video out next, and I'll see you in there.